Hello, my name is Lucy Brady, and I'd like to welcome you to Showcase of Churches, where I usually interview Christian leaders or I share about a topic. Today I want to share about Christmas carols. During the Christmas season, we are so blessed with many meaningful Christmas songs and carols. Yet many of us don't know anything about the story behind the Christmas carol, about how it was written, or the person who wrote or composed the music. The songwriters who penned these lyrics or composed the melodies are varied. I was surprised to see songs lyrics written by a French wine merchant be musically composed by a Parisian who composed for ballets. Then later see the song translated into English by the son of a Yale president. Another song was inspired when a 6'6", 300-pound Boston-born man of Puritan heritage was riding horseback in the Holy Land. Then we have a well-known horseback riding evangelist and hymn writer teaming up with a Welshman who worked in a flannel factory. How's that? Another carol was written by a man born in Bristol who managed an insurance company in Glasgow, Scotland. Some songwriters endured a season of ill health, which gave them time for reflection and spiritual growth. Not only are the lyrics of these songs inspirational, but many of the lives of the writers are worth looking at as a Christian example. So now I want to share what I found out about some of our Christmas carols and how they were written. I will be sharing in some cases when the carol was written, who the composer or lyricist was, what country or language it was written in, and perhaps how the carol progressed to different places. There is a difference now between a Christmas carol and a Christmas song. Christmas carols are a song or hymn using the theme of Christmas, are more spiritual, and usually sung during the Christmas season. They center about the birth of Christ, the shepherds, Bethlehem, where Christmas songs like White Christmas or Jingle Bells do not. Both carols and songs are enjoyed during the Christmas season. Today, my emphasis will be on the Christmas carols. Originally, carols were sung during different seasons. An example is the spring carol, and these carols were often accompanied by dance. Sometimes the tune originated with a folk song or an earlier tune, and sometimes the lyrics and melody were not even written at the same time, like the carol King Wenceslas, where a medieval dance tune from the 1200s was used when later the lyrics were written in the 1800s. There is a time during the 1600s when Christmas carols were actually banned. Now, I will share from some of the research I have done, but I hope my findings will be a springboard so you can decide to delve in a little bit further and gain knowledge about Christmas carols or the people who wrote the lyrics or the melody. I may give a comment or two about some of the ones I really enjoy. Now, about the instruments in carols over the years. Of course, if they were written or played with an orchestra, you had a whole variety of instruments. Otherwise, some of the instruments used earlier were pipe organs, piano, violin, harp, guitar, tambourine, flute, recorder, and bells. And there's probably some other ones too. So now the first one is Hark the Herald Angels Sing. Many of us are familiar with the song Hark the Herald Angels Sing and with the life of Charles Wesley, who wrote it. However, many of us are not familiar with his work, Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, which was published in 1745. In this song, he used the tune of an untrained musician who was Welsh-born loom tender in a flannel manufacturing company. Not somebody you'd expect would write songs, right? Charles Wesley was the 18th child of Susanna and Samuel Wesley, who was a minister in the Church of England. Charles was actually born in the church rectory and rescued out of a fire there. The estimated number of hymns written by Charles Wesley ranges from 6,000 to 8,000. It has been said he wrote an average of 10 lines a day for 50 years. After 7,000 hymns, he would have to write a hymn a day for 20 years straight. Okay, both Charles and his brother John Wesley were given the best of educations in England, yet they left a somewhat affluent lifestyle to bring the gospel to those in the British Isles and America, often traveling by horseback through the harsh winter seasons. John and Charles Wesley founded the Christian denomination of Methodism. We can certainly be thankful for their dedication and consistency of Charles Wesley and others who have blessed us with great hymns and songs. Now, "O Little Town of Bethlehem," and I realized I didn't really focus on "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," but just on Charles Wesley more. "O Little Town of Bethlehem" was written by Philip Brooke, and he was inspired to write "O Little Town of Bethlehem" while horseback riding to the town of Bethlehem in 1865. Well, there he passed the area where he saw shepherds in the field. Then, after returning to America, he wrote the song in 1868. Philip Brooke was born a rector of a Philadelphia church and became bishop of the Massachusetts Church. He was born in Boston in 1835 and descended from a long line of Puritan ancestors. He graduated from Harvard in 1855. He gave his song to Louis Redner, the organist, who was also superintendent of missions and a teacher in the church school, and asked him to write the music. Brooks said he had written a simple song for the Christmas Sunday school service, which needed to be written for the following week. Okay, so no pressure, right? Okay, Redner, the organist, was reminded again the next Friday when he said it wasn't written yet, but he would have it by Sunday. He went to bed still undecided about the tune and had actually given more thought to his Sunday school lesson than to the music. He was roused from sleep in the middle of the night and grabbed a piece of paper to jot down the treble, then finished the harmony before the church service in the morning. Neither the writer of the music or the lyrics thought the carol would live beyond the Christmas program in 1868, and yet we're still singing it, right? I think we can be thankful for songwriters that were willing to be roused in the middle of the night to hear or compose those tunes and to write them down. It is interesting to me the amount of carols written where the title begins with O. We have "O Little Town of Bethlehem," O come, Emmanuel," "O Holy Night," "O come, all ye faithful," are just some of them. All right, so first of all, we'll do O come, Emmanuel." During the 19th century, Anglican ministers and scholars were interested in translating some of the Greek, Latin, and German hymns into English. John Neal, born in London in 1818, translated a number of hymns. Among them was "O come, Emmanuel." John Neal won the Seatonian Prize for Religious Poetry 11 times while at Trinity College in Cambridge. He was ordained in the Church of England, but his ill health kept him from parish ministry. The verses reflect on Matthew 1:23. "The virgin will be with child and will give birth to a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel," meaning God is with us. The text is based on a biblical prophecy in Isaiah 7:14. "O Holy Night." The account of "O Holy Night" Christmas Carol I'm most impressed with, that song. Placide Chapot, a French wine merchant and mayor in the south of France, was asked to write a poem for the Christmas Mass. So on his way to Paris, while riding in a coach, he wrote the poem, which he decided was worthy of becoming a song. He went to Adolphe Adam, the son of a well-known classical pianist, who had written works for ballet and orchestra around the world, including the ballet Gazelle. Adam wrote the tune in a few days, so it was in time for the Christmas Mass. The song was accepted in France and used in services until it was reported that Adolphe Adam was Jewish and that Placide held radical social views of the time, including opposition to slavery. The Catholic Church denounced the song based on these reasons, plus the fact that the composer wrote for ballets. In spite of this, the French people continued to sing Cantique Noël, or O Holy Night. Then an American writer, who was an abolitionist, favored the line, "Chains shall he break, for the slave is our brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease." John Dwight, the son of Yale President Timothy Dwight, and writer of a music journal, translated it into English. The song found favor in North of America during the Civil War. The song was still sung in France, even though it was still banned by the Catholic Church. Legend has it that on Christmas Eve, 1871, during the Franco-Prussian War, a French soldier jumped out of his trench without his gun while singing Cantique de Noël, or O Holy Night. Then after he finished 3 stanzas, a German jumped up and sang Martin Luther's "From Heaven Above in Earth Shall I Come." And it is said that the fighting stopped for 24 hours of peace in honor of Christmas Day. O Holy Night also became the very first song ever sent through the air via radio waves, when on Christmas Eve in 1906, Thomas Edison's chief chemist, Reginald Fessenden, played the tune on his violin after reading about the birth of Christ over the microphone. He was using a new type of generator, and for the first time in history, a man's voice was broadcast over the airwaves. Wow, what a story. Now, we will bring in a short video piece I compiled earlier, a few years ago, on the story of O Holy Night.
The account of A Christmas Carol I'm really impressed with is the story of O Holy Night. Placide Cappeau, a French wine merchant and mayor in the south of France, was asked to write a poem for Christmas Mass. So on his way to Paris, while riding in a coach, he wrote the poem, which he decided was worthy of becoming a song. He went to Adolphe Adam, the son of a well-known classical pianist who had written works for ballet and orchestra around the world, including the ballet Giselle. Adam wrote the tune in a few days, so it was in time for the Christmas Mass. The song was accepted in France and used in services until it was reported that Adolphe Adam was Jewish, and that Placide held radical social views for the time, including opposition to slavery. The Catholic Church denounced the song based on these reasons, plus the fact that the composer wrote for ballets. John Dwight, the son of Yale President Timothy Dwight and writer of a music journal, translated it into English. The song found favor in the North of America during the Civil War. The song was still being sung in France, even though it was still banned by the Catholic Church. Legend has it that on Christmas Eve, 1871, during the Franco-Prussian War, a French soldier jumped up out of a trench and without his gun began singing Cantique de Noël. After he finished 3 stanzas, a German jumped up and sang Martin Luther's "From Heaven Above in Earth I Come." It is said that the fighting stopped for 24 hours of peace in honor of Christmas Day. O Holy Night also became the first song ever sent through the air via radio waves, when on Christmas Eve 1906, Thomas Edison's chief chemist Reginald Fessenden played it on his violin after reading about the birth of Christ over the microphone. He was using a new type of generator, and for the first time in history, a man's voice was broadcast over the airwaves.
Well, hope you enjoyed that. So now I'll go on to our next Christmas carol, which is "What Child Is This?" And it was written in 1865 by William Chatterton Dix, the son of a surgeon, who gave his son the middle name after the poet Thomas Chatterton. The author of What Child Is This? Was born in Bristol, England, and managed an insurance company in Glasgow, Scotland. He had been bedridden for several months and started writing hymns during that time. He had a near-death experience along with depression, and after experiencing a spiritual awakening, he became an avid reader of the Bible and wrote hymns. The song had been originally written as The Manger Throne was published in 1871. The melody used the song in the traditional folk song Greensleeves, which was printed in 1580. Sorry about that. So here's one of those examples of where a tune is written much earlier than the lyrics. And then we've also heard that same tune, Greensleeve, used for more modern songs, actually. All right, "We Sing Emmanuel Thy Praise" is the next song. Paul Gerhardt, the author of "We Sing Emmanuel Thy Praise," was born in 1607. and grew up in Germany in a village near Wittenberg. He was the son of a burgomaster and trained to be a Lutheran pastor. He wrote 123 hymns, many of which were written in Berlin. He was also known for taking in widows and orphans into his home. When he wouldn't sign an edict limiting the freedom of speech on theological matters, he was disposed from his pulpit. In 1666, he was also forbidden to lead private worship in his home. During this time, 4 of his 5 children died, and his wife died in 1668. Pretty sad story. And yet, he produced these songs for us. All right, Good King Wenceslas is a carol that encourages us to consider the poor. As one line reads, "He who now will bless the poor will himself find blessing." The music for Good King Wenceslas originated from a Swedish spring carol. The English lyrics were written by John Mason Neale, an English translator, composer, and minister. The carol is about a Duke of Bohemian who became king, then became a Christian. His reign was short due to him being killed by his pagan brother. During his reign, he was known to be a just and merciful king who had compassion on the sick and the poor. His lyrics were intended to give a good role model for children. The tune for Good King Wenceslas is a medieval dance tune from the 1200s, while the words were written in 1800. This is another example of early songwriting where words were often written to tunes composed much earlier. Like I mentioned earlier, many of the Christmas carols focus on the birth of Christ. For Good King Wenceslas, the emphasis is on Christian walking in the steps to help the poor. John Mason Neale also wrote Good Christian Men Rejoice. I will now read the lyrics to Good King Wenceslas. It was written using the King's English, so there are words like hither and thither, thou and ye, and the characters are a monarch and a page. I enjoy how the song describes the landscape and situation, and the message of this carol really touches my heart. Here we have someone with wealth and position taking time and effort to trudge through the snow to bring supplies to the poor, where now people get in their warm cars, drive to the market, and time and effort doesn't compare to the sacrifice and service of this monarch and page. And as a monarch, this person certainly didn't need to trudge through the snow to serve the poor like this monarch did. Good King Wenceslas looks out, here's the lyrics now. Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, cool and crisp and even, actually it's deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Hither, page, and stand by me, if thou knowest telling, yonder peasant, who is he? Where and what his dwelling? Sire, he comes a good league hence, underneath the mountain, right against the forest fence by St. Agnes fountain. Bring me fresh and bring me wine, bring me pine long hither, thou and I shall see him dine when we bear him thither. Page and monarch forth they went together, through the rude wild's lament and the bitter weather. Sire, the night grows darker now, and the wind blows stronger. Fills my heart, I know not how, I can go no longer. Mark my footsteps, my good page, tread thou in them boldly. Thou shalt find the winter's rage freeze the blood less coldly. In his master's steps he trod, where the snow lay dinted, heat in the very sod which the saint had printed. Therefore, Christian men, be sure, wealth and rank possessing, ye who now will bless the poor, shall yourselves find blessing. So that's actually one of my favorite ones. Okay, now Joy to the World, which most of you heard. Joy to the World was written in 1719 by Isaac Watts. Has been the most published Christmas carol in North America since the 20th century. It is based on Psalms 98, Psalms 96, and chapter 3 in the book of Genesis. The tune was arranged by Lowell Mason, who attributes the original tune of Antioch by George Frederick Handel, who wrote, of course, Handel's Messiah. All right. So here again, we have somebody using somebody else's music to their lyrics. We Three Kings by John Hopkins is, we three kings of Orient are, bearing gifts we traverse afar, field and fountain, moor and mountain, following yonder star. O star of wonder, star of night, star of royal beauty light, westward leading, still proceeding, guide us to thy perfect light. This probably is the Three Kings carol we are most familiar with. However, I will talk about another one later. I think we often form our understanding based on what we hear in Christmas carols, see in a painting, or view in a movie, instead of knowing what probably really happened. There were 3 gifts brought by the wise men, so it appeared to be assumed that there were only 3 wise men bringing those gifts. However, back in those times, it wasn't safe to travel long distance, especially with treasures. So people usually traveled in caravans. So there were more people to provide safety. Therefore, I don't believe we can actually know how many wise men there were. So now the next one then is the Three Kings. Here's another carol about wise men I found. It is the Three Kings. The 3 kings from Persia land afar to Jordan followed the pointing star. And this, the quest of the travelers 3, where the newborn king of the Jews may be. Full royal gifts they bear for the king, gold, incense, and myrrh are their offering. The star shines out with a steadfast ray. The kings to Bethlehem make their way and stay in worship. They bend their knee as Mary child on her lap they see. Their royal gifts they show to the king, gold, incense, myrrh are their offering. Thou child of man, lo, to Bethlehem the kings are traveling. Travel with them. The star of mercy, the star of grace, shall lead thy heart to its resting place. Gold, incense, myrrh, thou canst bring, offering thy heart to the infant king. Offer thy heart. I like the way this carol ends about offering our hearts and not just the gifts to Jesus. However, again, the assumption is that there were only 3 kings, and it appears they are visiting the manger where Christ is newborn. Yet, actually, when we read the Bible, they came later when there was no longer a manger and Jesus was no longer newly born. He was living in a house by then. All right, so Silent Night, composed by Franz Gruber, a schoolmaster and organist from the village of Arnsdorf, is a carol probably all of us have always heard. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Round yon virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. Sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. These lyrics were written by Joseph Mohr in Oberndorf by Salzmann, Austria. I don't know if I pronounced all that right. According to Wikipedia, on Christmas Eve, 1818, Mohr brought the words of the song to Franz Gruber and asked him to compose a melody and accompaniment by guitar for the night's mass. It's possible that flooding damaged the organ, as the church was eventually destroyed by repeated flooding and replaced with a Silent Night chapel. The song was picked up and spread by 2 families of folk singers who performed in Northern Europe. Later, the Strasser family performed it for the King of Prussia in 1834. Later, the song was translated into hundreds of other languages. All right, Little Drummer Boy. Where many of the carols were written at least a couple of centuries ago, The Little Drummer Boy is a carol that has been popularized in modern times. It was written in 1941 by American classical composer Catherine Jennison Davis. And here we have a woman actually doing it. The song was originally titled Carol of the Drum and came into prominence when the Von Trapp singers recorded it in 1951 with Decca Records. Of course, most of us are familiar with the Austrian Von Trapp families and singers from the movie Sound of Music. Well, I enjoyed doing this research and tour through some of the Christmas carols, and I hope you did too. Now perhaps you are more curious about some of the many other Christmas carols. Thank you for watching Showcase of Churches. And if you want to view this program again, just Google Lucy Met Production YouTube.